Hi, you are tuning in to AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng. On this show, I speak with business leaders and entrepreneurs making an impact in their respective industries. Joining me on the show today is the founder of a company that has disrupted the used car industry, not just in Malaysia, but also in the region. I'd like to welcome Eric Cheng, CEO and co-founder of Carsome. Thank you for coming on the show.
All right, thanks for having me again.
Well, Eric, we met about a year and a half ago, and I think that time you were at a different office, and you were going to move into this new one, which has about 400 staff workforce at the moment. Tell us, what have you been up to? This growth trajectory that you're seeing from Carsome is amazing.
Yeah, so I think the past 1.5 years, many things have happened, right? Mostly great stuff. And alone in Malaysia, we have 400 staff, but regionally now we have grown to about 900 staff altogether, and even have a tech hub in China, Beijing. So, and I think along with what we have done so far with the car selling experience across the countries that we're operating in, we also extended our services into introducing the new car buying experience in Malaysia. And hopefully in the next few months, we'll be able to roll it out in other countries as well.
Tell us about this new car buying experience. I understand it's a transition from online to offline experience.
Correct. So I think the way we always think about the business is we put our customer first. We set out to tackle one of the most headache experience when it comes to selling your car. And I think likewise when it comes to buying a used car in the market, traditionally in the past many years, it has been a headache, a hassle, and most people would describe it as a very cumbersome process. And I think we wanted to change and create a differentiated car buying experience by introducing the transparency when it comes to the car condition. So you're able to wheel through all the cars with quality assurance, and at the same time, worry-free purchase. It comes with extended warranty and also a money-back guarantee within 5 days. If you don't like the car, you can exchange it for another one.
So this is available at the Experience Center?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So you can.
What can I expect when I go into that place, that store?
So it felt more like an Apple Center where you walk into a Mac store, then you see iPhones, iPads. I think you have seen no cars in the experience centers, but what you would see is all the iPads with the cars that you're able to view through our listing. So it's something that can be done at home as well through the website. I think one of the key differentiator over here is for each car, it comes with that inspection report. So if there's any imperfections with the car that comes with it, which all of it is very unique, is at its own condition, you're able to view through the listing. At the same time, all cars will have the 360 virtual tour as well. So you're able to have like as close as the look in terms of the pictures of the look and feel of the car. And through the website or through the centers, you're able to book for a test drive, to go for a spin.
So I can get a car for a test drive almost immediately then?
Yes.
Okay. Well, timing-wise, I find that quite interesting because of the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of brick and mortar stores having to shut down. But why right now to set up that physical presence?
I think data run through our business in many ways, right? And one of the things that we observe so far is there's a lot of people coming through our store to sell cars, but at the same time, they're buying cars as well. So through one of our recent survey, we saw that 80% of the people, when they're selling, they're looking to purchase as well, right? So through that, we wanted to make sure that not just by able to introduce a seamless experience where you can view through cars online, and then yet at the same time, some of the process, while it's still traditional, like offline, for example, test drive, we wanted to make sure that you could at least still feel the car physically.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we set up a center that right next to most of our inspection centers who help you sell and buy cars at the same time.
All right. Now, Carsome also recently entered the e-commerce space through partnership with the likes of Shopee, Lazada. Tell us about this move. Is there a new segment that you're trying to capture here?
I think looking at the way we introduce the B2C experience or car buying experience, we wanted to extend the outreach, right, to reach more people. And Shopee, Lazada being one of the biggest e-commerce platform in the region, they will help us gain a lot more momentum when it comes to introducing this service to or this product to more consumers. So that's the reason why we had the tie-up, and they're very happy to help us digitalize the entire used car market altogether.
All right. Now I want to switch focus to talk about the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. The overall auto segment has seen a decline during the period of lockdown, but not the used car market. In fact, sales has gone through the roof in the used car segment. How has Carsome benefit from this, what we're seeing, this boom in the used car segment?
So I think first of all, during the lockdown period, across Malaysia or the entire Southeast Asia, none of us could trade cars at all, right? So, but at the same time, it's sort of a blessing in disguise because it helped us to regain our feet to just look at areas that how we could proceed in the markets post-lockdown. And one of the things that we saw is used car industry always have very strong resistance towards any crisis or any economic uncertainty, right? So people are going for a more affordable option, comparing like used car to new car. And I think moreover with the pandemic happening, people are trying to shy away from public transportation, right? Which also in turn accelerate the demand when it comes to buying used car in the market. So we are well prepared or best positioned in terms of leveraging that trend. And post-lockdown, I think things has been doing very well, especially that momentum from Q2 now carry forwards to Q3 or even rest of the year for 2020.
How has it translated into revenue, bottom line?
If you look at where we are right now is we are already surpassed the kind of volume we generated last year. So last year we transacted about 40,000 used car, which equivalent to about 1.2 billion ringgit in transacted value. So, and I think this year we're looking to actually surpass that very quickly in this month. And what's going to come after is probably 2x or 3x.
Now I want to talk about some of the markets that you're in. 4 markets: Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and Indonesia, right? Tell us about how they are doing as well at the moment, because I understand that Malaysia segment has achieved operational profitability. Correct? What about your other markets? How are they looking now?
Correct. Yeah, I think so far each country emerged in a very different pace. But overall, the sentiment and the momentum has been mostly positive rather than negative. Even that includes Indonesia. So one of the things that when I talk about the momentum that we're carrying through for the rest of the year is we are also on the path to profitability before end of this year.
This is for Indonesia?
As a group.
As a group?
As a group.
Okay. Well, that's great.
So and I think with the launch of our new B2C and helping people to buy cars now in a more seamless way, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to leverage on in the next few quarters.
Are you looking to get into other markets?
I think that's something that we like to consider, but at the same time, one of the first things we would like to do is to really extend our services to more cities that we're covering right now. So currently, just these 4 countries, we have about 50 over cities that we live in, and we plan to actually double that as fast as possible in the next few years.
So I'd like to really understand that part, right? The focus. Are you focused into getting deeper into your respective markets? Do you mean by getting into second-tier, third-tier cities, or or extending your services? So where's your focus at the moment?
So that's one of it, right? So and I think there's a lot of cities that we have that's still untouched for Carsome. And secondly, also when it comes to the services that we provide, so we want to become an ecosystem within the used car industry, right? Which all the industry partners, like financing partners, insurers, could plug into our ecosystem, and that includes like not just the car selling, but car buying. At the same time, like financing, insurance, the after-sales warranty. So these are the things that kind of ties in, integrated into the trading, so which we want to be able to extend to.
So talking about that, so Carsome has already expanded in terms of services. You mentioned financing, insurance by partnering with banks and insurance companies. Are there any other areas within the used car cycle that can be improved on, to make it more efficient and seamless for a consumer when they buy or sell a car?
Yeah, so we have always been a big believer when it comes to the experience, right? So earlier I mentioned about putting customer as a focus, and I think elevating the entire experience is something that we are trying to push through. That not just include the selling and buying, but also all the ancillaries that ties in together. So I think how we would think about it is we want to utilize our understanding in terms of how people are trading cars, what are the demand, what are supplies in the market, and try to bring more efficiency in the game, especially in from selling to buying. How long does it take to transact a car? So streamlining that is something that we are trying to do with a better experience. So
let's talk about that. What are some of the changes that you have noticed in terms of consumer behavior pre-pandemic and where we are right now in the used car segment? So are there any particular trends that stood out?
So I think the big shift in terms of how consumer preference has happened is there's a lot of people from buying new car now moving towards buying a used car in the market. I think that ties into what the market condition is right now. I think on top of that is we also see a steady increase in terms of the price that is happening within the market. There are more younger used car comparing to the old used car in the market. So like used car that's like 2-3 years old now starting to emerge more and more in the market as compared to used car that are much older than that. So that indirectly also help creates a healthier used car population because you see more quality used car in the market rather than the old junks.
All right. Now on to talk about technology. Carsome has a centralized inventory pool of cars from both sellers as well as dealers. I'd like for you to explain the kind of data that you're collecting and how strategic is it for the company moving forward?
Yeah, I think we'd like to have every decision made in the company that is to be data-centric. I think that's referring to how we look at the cars are being put up, what kind of cars and what the click stream like when it comes to coming to the website, and also from our demographics between the demand in every cities. I think leveraging a lot of this data to kind of help us make decisions is what we are always been doing. For example, right, like in terms of the transactions that we have done, about 70% of those are intercity transactions, which means selling from one city to another. So there's a lot of cars from KL will be sold to Johor, and likewise from Johor, there are cars selling to Penang or to Malacca, right? So how do we actually encourage that and increase that seamless transaction? At the same time, you as a seller or buyer, you are able to purchase not just within the same city is something that we are trying to improvise.
So this move to online to offline, right, is really, I imagine that it's also a need for you to stand out because there's a lot of competition in the market, especially in the used car online space.
Okay, yeah, I think for us is like I mentioned in terms of how we solve problems, we want to make sure that we put customer first. And at the same time, what it means is we look at where are the problems, right? So you want to be able to solve those problems with a sound solution. And that solution doesn't mean have to be purely online or purely offline. It could be a hybrid experience that help you to actually get the kind of service that you would like to seek for. And I think that's how we design when it comes to why online we are going to offline, but likewise at the same time you're experiencing our service on both ends.
I want to stay on the topic of competition because the market is certainly heating up. We saw that last year, Singapore startup Caro entered Malaysia by investing in a local outfit. Of course, you have Carmudi and Beli Mobile, which is now OXL in Indonesia. These are your core markets. So how are you planning to stay ahead of your competition?
I think if you look at the entire used car market within Southeast Asia, firstly, every other year there's 4.5 million used cars being traded. That's equivalent to about in US dollar 40 billion. And this year with the pandemic, everything has been accelerated into a much bigger number. So and yet at the same time, we look at Carsome being the largest player in the used car trading space. We are only about 1% of the entire market. So there's a lot of space.
Just 1%?
Just 1%, yeah. So there's a long growth path for every player, right? And I think in terms of the advantage, the structural way of how we are doing things over here, that put us in the best position to leverage on this trend to emerge and capture more market shares compared to the others. So
if you talk about this in Southeast Asia, every country has its unique challenges and different ecosystem, right? So it makes it really complicated for you to build a truly regional platform. In that regard, what is your strategy? Because I believe your goal is to be you guys are the biggest at the moment, but to be top and to stay at the top for a long time.
Yeah, I think being able to replicate that as a playbook when it comes to expanding from Malaysia to Indonesia to Thailand and Singapore, you need to be able to localize in the manner that the people, the consumers in different markets able to enjoy the experience. And that goes from the way you market your product, the key message, the brand message, and the channels that you go out to reach them. It also goes down to the kind of products, kind of technology that you implement to innovate the entire process. And moreover, the entire trading process between countries to country it can be slightly different, but mostly the same. So how do we actually hyper-localize it in a manner that you could cater for the local audience is something that I think any Southeast Asian company, not just us, right, have to do well.
And how do you do that?
I think it goes through from product to marketing message to the people you hire. All of this is a combination of how we think about the way we should grow. So I think one good thing is we have really great people within the company that can help us to understand some of these hard problems to tackle. And it's not one thing that could define the way you look at it, but I would say maybe localizing is something that we do best compared to other players.
Not long ago, Carsome raised about $50 million from strategic investors to expand your presence. Tell us, where are you right now in terms of expansion, and what's next really for Carsome?
So I think in terms of like our current used car selling service, we are at one of the biggest volume in the market. So one of the things is we want to roll out more centers for the B2C so we can reach out to more customers. And I think one of the key observation we have saw is the more cars that we actually put up for people to buy, there are more people who are buying it. So what it means is there's a lot of demand in the market that's trying to purchase used car, but rather is whether we have the capacity to actually cater for that demand. So one of the very immediate things that we're trying to do right now is to really increase the capacity that we could produce when it comes to offering cars to our car buyers, to our consumers. And that's what we are targeting to do, not just on the city level, but also to our inventory level.
I want to go back in time a bit.
Okay.
To talk a bit about yourself as well. So this has been fantastic 5 years for Carsome, right? Can you talk about, how you went from that first transaction on the platform on Carsome to now currently this current milestone? How many cars have been transacted so far?
So right now on a monthly basis, we are doing about more than 6,000 cars.
6,000 cars in the region.
Yeah, and if we compare it to when we first started the business, 2016 January, which I still remember, we transacted only about 30 cars in the first month. Yeah, so we have grown quite a fair bit from that 5 years ago. Yeah.
So I think something that maybe not many people know about you is that you quit university, you dropped out of uni, and you went into entrepreneurship. You started an advertising company and then Carsome.
Yeah.
Tell us about that journey, right? I mean, what have you learned during this 5-6 years as an entrepreneur? What are more significant learnings that you have?
Sure.
So
I think that advertising company is just one of the many that failed attempt that I tried to.
So that was just one of many.
So there's a couple of other setups as well, including a mobile app, including like a pre-net, sort of like your offline Groupon thing. So there's many things that I've tried, and all of this kind of basically taught me some lessons in terms of how we should look at a problem, look at a company, how do we scale it, and also how do we manage a team. And I think in many ways, all of this combined into a really big understanding, right, of if I'm going to build a company, what kind of things I should look at the very beginning. And I think that's the biggest learning when it comes to how I'm thinking about starting Carsome at the very beginning.
At this stage where you are right now, how has your thought process as an entrepreneur different from when you started 5-6 years ago in Carsome? I
think still feel like we are at the starting point. Yeah, especially right now. I think in terms of like the passion in the team, in myself, we see how we can visualize how the company can grow in the next few years, and that pushes us to actually think more about how to execute all of those visions, those plans that we have within the company. And these are a lot of really tough things to get it done, right? And I think one thing I'm thankful compared to where I was like 5 years ago, there's only 5 of us in the beginning, and now there's like hundreds of people that are really at the same time solving the same problem, right? Reaching the same objective. So I think that's where I'm very different as compared to before. I have a great team now in doing that together. And
what were some of your biggest obstacles, growing as an entrepreneur to where you are today?
I think one very important thing is I try not to be the bottleneck of the company. I think every other year is a very different challenge, as much as the objectives stay largely the same, right? So, and how do you actually be able to contribute greatly to the company and not be in the way of growth is something that I'm always trying to seek for. And I think staying really hungry, staying really foolish, which is borrowing Steve Jobs' quote, right? Is very important, because that's how you push yourself to kind of think about all of these things all together.
It's interesting when you mentioned that you don't want to be the bottleneck of the company, and often as a founder, it's a choice between choosing growth and then relinquishing some decision making. Correct. So where are you right now? You know, what are some of the thought process that goes into your mind as you enter the next stage of growth for Carsome?
Yeah, I think strategically, I'm trying to put together a team of people that could actually help realize this vision. So when it comes to think about how Carsome would be in the next few years, right, it's something that it can only be done with like really a great amount of talent, right? So and I think that's something that I'm trying to strive for as a CEO, right? Not just moving the company in the right direction, but also getting the people, finding the right people to help accomplish that task in between to reach that goal.
Was there any point that you had wanted to just quit, throw in the towel?
Not really, actually. Yeah, I think I have been embedded with the spirit of not giving up since day one. Even if you throw at me any hard problems to solve, I will make sure that I will solve it and find ways to navigate through. I think this is something that I always try to keep up with. Yeah.
So yeah, I actually remembered our conversation about 2 years ago, and I asked you about this whole dropping out of university, just jumping straight into entrepreneurship. I think you mentioned that this is a do or die for you.
Well, in a way, I've been through the valley, so it's not so much of a problem to go through it again, because there's always up and down, right? And I think to me is there's downs and there's always up. So how to actually always pick yourself up and do that again, I think is something that I always want to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about building the company, your staff, your team, and it's very important to build a sustainable tech culture, right? And how do you keep your staff motivated and to keep that drive of entrepreneurship, not just within you, but also your staff?
I think the sense of achievement is very important, right? Like I think you can always indulge yourself into like a lot of work to do on a daily basis, but sometimes if it doesn't churn out results, there's something that could frustrate you, right? So I think that's how we are trying to create at the same time an environment that we can keep ourselves very open to solving problems, work together to kind of make sure that we can empower each other to reach the same goal. And I think so far that's how we are doing it in terms of cultivating a good culture among us, right? To make sure that as much as possible we are working as a team to reach a common goal.
Okay. Well, just one final question about how do you see the next few years for Carsome? I mean, you guys are already the largest in the market for used car segment. What's next? Is there a next milestone that you aim to achieve, or next market that you want to get into?
So I think if you look at any industry, right, or industry leaders, whether it's like e-commerce, whether it's grocery, whether it's any retail that you can imagine, industry player could always command more than 10% or even 20% of the entire market, and yet we are still at the very early phase of that growth, and we're looking at the used car market or in the industry. It's still very fragmented. There's no significant players, apart from ourselves and some of the other players. So I would like to think that in the next few years, we want to be able to actually push it up and maybe obtain firstly the double digit in terms of market share, and continue to push towards like contributing more into the market with innovative solutions and so on. So
I understand you stated earlier that at this point in time, you're going to go deeper into the 4 existing markets. But are there plans in the future to expand beyond Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're looking. There's a few more countries that we are kind of thinking about it right now. So when the right time comes, then we'll definitely introduce our services into a new country or a new market.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for spending some time with me to talk about Carsome and talk about yourself as well. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best with your growth and expansion plans.
Sure. Thank you again for having me.
Well, you have been watching AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng, that was the co-founder and CEO of Carsome. It's been great to have you on this show. We'll see you again in the next episode.